perhaps as we take a look at the impact that the Easter travelling will have on road safety, police are all set to be on high alert and conduct a series of heightened law enforcement activities across the provinces during the Easter weekend, where a high volume of traffic is expected as holidaymakers exit the province for various destinations across the country. Motorists are advised to exercise caution on the roads and make safety their main priority. Perhaps for this and more, we're joined via Zoom by Layton Beard. He is the spokesperson for the Automobile Association. Layton, good afternoon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
So Layton, year in, year out, we have conversations about, the importance of road safety during the Easter weekend. Perhaps we can look at the change in human behavior that's needed to ensure that road safety this festive season is adhered to, perhaps even beyond this period.
That's a very good question, Liesl, and unfortunately it's going to take more than just an intensive campaign over an Easter period or a festive period to enact that change. People who drive badly over the whole of the year are not all of a sudden going to change their behavior over a 4-day period or over a festive period at the end of the year. It requires intensive education and awareness campaigns throughout the year. It requires intensive traffic law enforcement throughout the year, and people need to see that there are consequences to their actions throughout the year. And only then would you be able to see a change over a period like the Easter period where behavior then actually changes. You're not going to change people's behavior just simply because it's an Easter period and there is now intensive traffic law enforcement. We're still going to see incidents where people are overtaken on solid white lines, people are drinking and driving, people are texting and driving, and a host of other road offences that people commit, moving violations. And those need to be changed at other periods throughout the year so that when we do get to these busy times, that behavior is already inculcated in people's driving behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of consequences, I actually wanted to draw your attention to a statistic that I read. There's a target of reducing road traffic deaths and injuries by at least 50% by the year 2030. And I wonder,
Yes.
as per the decade of action for road safety, which is between 2021 and 2030, how are we faring? Are we on track as a country?
No, we certainly are not on track, and the 50 by 30 campaign is not going to materialize in South Africa, and the government has acknowledged as such. The previous Minister of Transport, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, made the point as well, which raises a whole range of other questions. But we are not going to reach those targets. When we look at the annual fatality statistics of South Africa on our roads, they change. If they go down, they change very nominally, very small reductions, but invariably they stay pretty much the same or unfortunately get higher. So there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of road safety, which in the view of the AA is a national crisis. So we are not going to reach those targets, sadly, Liesl. And as I say, a lot more needs to happen if we are going to even make a dent in reducing those fatality statistics.
We tried to also quantify the cost to date, the cost to the economy, the social, psychological costs. How do we begin to envision what that picture looks like currently in South Africa, perhaps as we head into the festive period?
I think calculating that cost on a rand value basis is very difficult. I think the first thing we have to acknowledge is that the actual emotional damage that does to families is incalculable. You can't replace somebody who has been lost in your family, and the emotional damage is very difficult to comprehend. In 2015, the Road Traffic Management Corporation released a document called The Cost of Crashes. And in that document, they calculated that the cost of crashes and of fatalities in South Africa at that point was around 143 billion rand. Now, if you extrapolate that and extrapolate that for inflation at 6% annually, we are closer at this stage to around 210 billion rand a year that crashes cost our economy. And that's in terms of medical care that needs to be provided, fixing up the roads that have been damaged in crashes, the police services, the time and the money that goes into them. There are a range of other factors that are used to calculate that. But 210 billion rand that is wasted on road crashes in South Africa could obviously be spent better if it wasn't needed to be spent on crashes. which I think supports the view of the AA that road safety needs to be prioritized, and not only at specific times of the year. It needs to be prioritized by the authorities in the sense of education and awareness campaigns. It needs to be prioritized in schools for children as young as primary school, even younger, to learn the rules of the road. It needs to be prioritized by the courts, who make moving violations and road offences a priority. And it needs to be prioritized by laboratories who are able to process blood samples quicker, so that we can get to a better state of prosecution for instance, drunk drivers. So there's certainly a lot that can happen, and that money that is wasted on crashes could certainly be spent better on improving road safety in our country.
Absolutely, Layton. I think just in the interest of time, because it is a very busy weekend ahead, perhaps you could speak to, what people should prepare themselves for the weekend, especially motorists. We've also seen a spate of hijackings across the country. How should people be handling a situation, even avoid them altogether?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think if you're going to be hitting the road this long weekend, the most important thing you can have is the right attitude. You've got to have a positive attitude. You've got to understand that you are sharing the road with thousands of other road users, other motorists. It's a privilege to drive on our roads. It's not a right. And you should be courteous and obey the rules of the road when you are on the road. Obviously, if there is a dangerous situation that you think you may be encountering, you do need to look after your security. And one of the things we suggest to people is to have panic buttons available. The AA has a panic button called Remy, which we think is very useful and can assist people in the event of emergency. But certainly these are the types of things that people need to start thinking about and about having with them when they are traveling, especially long distances.
Layton, thank you for your time here on the SABC. Layton Beard, spokesperson for the Automobile Association.